Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with the visibility in the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Take, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and who's the biggest threat to the Chiefs for three-peating. And it has listed the 49ers, the Bengals, or the Lions. This is absurd because there are more teams that are also threats to the Chiefs. It's not just the Bengals, the Lions, or the 49ers. I don't even understand. First off, the Packers are coming. Do not sleep on the Packers next season. They are coming. That's number one. Number two, I do believe that the 49ers, Bengals, and Lions are all technically threats. But what all of a sudden we're just throwing out the Ravens because they didn't have a great playoff game, and we're throwing out Josh Allen and the Bills? What kind of disrespect is that? That's insane. And what about the Texans? Do we think the Texans are just going to fall off a cliff? Especially if they get Saquon Barkley? Oh my God, the Texans are also coming. Do not sleep on the Texans. I really want to hear what these guys have to say. So we'll take a listen and then we can go from there.
The biggest threat to a Chiefs three-peat?
Yeah, they are. I appreciate Debo's realism. It is really hard to get back to where they were, but I do think they're better situated than any other team in the NFL. So right now, ahead of free agency, we are talking about all of these great players being cut. The Bills roster, right, has been the topic over the last couple of days. You're not really hearing the San Francisco 49ers very much because they're going to largely return the same team we saw this year. Next year is when they're facing a lot of their big names potentially hitting free agency, some of which sure they'll have to extend now. But for the most part, this depth chart is extremely sound, in large part because they're not paying their quarterback anything. Brock Purdy is the best value in the NFL right now. So when you look ahead to next season, you think about a team that was really one Chris Jones unblocked pressure away from winning the whole dang thing. I can't really see a good argument for this team, which was so dominant last year, to not get back to that spot. There's competition rising. We're going to talk about some of those teams, but I think this roster remains as strong as they were and remains the best competitor when it comes to facing the Kansas City Chiefs again.
Yeah, I agree with Mina on this. The only question I have about the San Francisco 49ers is, can Brock Purdy also get better, improve, take another step forward from last year was mostly an MVP caliber type season. But the other team that I would say is actually the Cincinnati Bengals, because I look to them because of their quarterback, a guy who I believe is 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes, a guy that coming out of the AFC. When I look at this young defense that the Bengals have, I've talked to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo about the growing pains that they would have had last year. This defense is going to get better. I understand the T. Higgins situation and where he ends up remains to be seen. But I look at the 49ers as a team that can rival the Chiefs, but also just within their own conference, the Bengals. When you got Joe Burrow, to me, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. And that last season might have been a lot different had he not started the year hurt and then obviously had the injury later in the year.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to stay out of the AFC entirely because what we know Patrick Mahomes and what he's been able to do over the last 6 years, I'm going to go to the NFC, and I'm going to go to a team that was up 17 points versus San Francisco 49ers, and that's the Detroit Lions. When I look at this team, and when you look at Jared Goff at the quarterback position, he understands what it takes to be a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, they did it the first game of the year on Thursday night this season, and the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have Travis Kelce. They didn't have Chris Jones. We understand that those are two big holes that weren't there. But I'm going to go back to his days when he was with the Los Angeles Rams, and they had that shootout versus Patrick Mahomes and company. So Jared Goff has played Patrick Mahomes a few times in his career, and he understands when you play against a guy like that, how...
All right. This was a ridiculous clip. I don't know. I don't even know what to... I don't even know what to say, honestly. First off, she's talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and their defense. Their defense was absolutely atrocious. Yes, the season would have been different with Joe Burrow. Obviously. No duh. That's number one. Number two, bringing up Jared Goff playing with the Los Angeles Rams years ago makes 0 sense, okay? 0. Let me say it one more time. 0 sense. So, I'm not even sure why you're even bringing that up. Do I think the Lions can actually be a threat to the Chiefs? Absolutely. Although I question Dan Campbell's ability to be able to coach in a Super Bowl. He will be outcoached by Andy Reid. It's a matter of if the OC and DC will be able to put together a good enough plan for the Detroit Lions. The 49ers, I feel as though they absolutely could beat the Chiefs. I think they could have beaten the Chiefs this past Super Bowl if it wasn't for the fumble. I still have this paper here. If it wasn't for the Christian McCaffrey fumble, the punt fumble, the mixed extra point, the fact that they abandoned the run, the Greenlaw injury, all of those things needed to happen in order for them to just barely sneak on by with the win. So I think absolutely the 49ers can win. I do not think Brock Purdy is going to take some big, massive step forward. I think largely the 49ers are who they are. And the truth is that I think that the other teams in the NFC now are going to catch up to them. I still think that the 49ers are probably a notch or two above the rest of the teams in the NFC, but as we saw, the Packers almost beat them. The Detroit Lions almost beat them. The Rams are going to be better. You'd have to imagine that the Rams would either beat them or also almost beat them. So the 49ers are not head and shoulders better than all the other teams in the NFC. So again, the 49ers are going to have to go through a gauntlet next season in order to do this all. And you have to trust that Debo's going to be healthy. Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy. Yeah, you have to bank on all these, on the health of these players that are always often hurt. Kittle's getting older. I mean, Kittle in any moment could go down just because of his age. Now let's flip over more to, focusing on the Chiefs in that regard. The Chiefs are also going to be going to a gauntlet. The Ravens are coming. The Ravens are a great team. They were a young team. They made major mistakes, and I think they learned their lesson that they're not going to make again. They play the Chiefs again. I've got my money on the Ravens. The Bills are a question mark. Josh Allen is amazing. I absolutely love Josh Allen, but the Bills, their offense did not step up. They did not catch the ball when they needed to. So that's, it will be interesting to see what the Bills do in the draft and other offseason moves. As for the Texans, I think the Texans are coming. Absolutely, undeniably. CJ Stroud has the Texans firing at all cylinders, and I think they're going to be even better this next season. So I think the Chiefs had a much harder route to get to the Super Bowl again. And if I had to bet, I would say that the Chiefs are not making the Super Bowl, and they're not making an AFC championship game next season. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Please let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is amazing or terrible, let me know. Let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Thank you so much, and see you next time.